In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A 3-run home run for Buffington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2. Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
And what can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports, episode 143. John Senecal, Brian Shackman here. John, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, good.
You feeling pretty fired up? I mean, talk to Yankee fans, man. You're ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean it's looking good. I mean Soto, obviously, he's the talk of the town. I mean I don't even think Judge has gotten a hit yet this spring. I don't think, but I keep freaking out about your toe theory, Brian, and that's sitting in the back of my head. But I mean, there hasn't been any snuffs of that. But God darn, man, Soto, holy cow!
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's funny that I just assumed that Judge would be fine. He does have 2 hits this spring. He's 2 for 14. I mean,
He'll be fine.
we'll see.
He's not limping.
I certainly do not like the Yankees, but I'm interested in their lineup. I mean, if everyone's healthy, it's kind of insane. And Rizzo's a guy no one's talking about, but he's gonna. If you believe in the theory that a pitcher only has so many good pitches, Rizzo's gonna get some meatballs.
Yeah,
because you have to focus on everybody else. And he might be an afterthought.
What people forget about Rizzo is last season he was one of the best hitters in baseball until he got cracked in the head by Tatis.
Yeah, and between him and Verdugo, you can't sleep on them because they can put the ball in a place that's going to be trouble. So if you focus too much on whether it's Judge or even Giancarlo, and you have to waste a few on one of those guys, it could hurt you.
It's a good lineup for to wear out pitchers. Because we all know what Soto can do. Verdugo's good at running a count, and Rizzo's good at running a count.
Yeah.
And that can wear, right? And then that's when they make mistakes, and that's when you put the ball out of the park and for traditional Yankee baseball. But yeah, so far so good. A little bit of injuries here and there, but nothing that would be astronomical to hurt to hurt your roster.
So this is what we're going to talk today about in no particular order. Mookie Betts, and playing shortstop. We'll talk. About however you say his name. Is it Brian Bello? Is it Brian Bello? I always mess it up. No disrespect. And we'll also talk about the Savannah Bananas in Houston because they had
the dog and pony show, right? They usually do.
I think they've jumped the shark in my opinion.
I do too.
But they had Clemens on the mound.
Well, I feel like that's what they're going for, right? I feel like they're getting in bigger stadiums. In
every city, they're going to have somebody.
Right. And they're in bigger stadiums, so they got the draw. I mean, they're playing the game. And people are still going out. But, again, it's getting a little stale.
Jesse Cole, what he should do is he should do this tour, show some private equity schlubs the numbers, and then sell it. He should get out because I don't think it's got as much a shelf life as people think.
No, because traditional baseball still wins out. I mean, even though the price, but it's still,
Well, it's gotten so performative and less organic. When it started, it was all sort of fun and new.
Right.
And now they have a template. And
it's almost like, what was I going to see when I went? Now you kind of know what you're going to see. It's like the Globetrotters.
Correct. And they hate that, by the way, because I've had Jackson Olsen on, and I make that comparison, and they bristle at that for sure. Let's talk about Mookie because he did get it's not like he hasn't played short before. He played. He had
16 games, I think, last year.
Something like that. He played second, short, and center, and
right,
and so.
And he bowled a 300 game, I believe.
The thing that's crazy for me is that I don't think it's hard for a lot of these athletes in the majors to play a different position here and there, but to play and start and be legit, everyday good.
Look like you know what you're doing.
It's really hard because you go to games, you realize how much prep work goes into every pregame at your position. And so he can't pregame 4 positions. And so to be able to go in and out like that, it just shows you, man. I just get back to the Red Sox or whatever. Why wouldn't the Red Sox? Now the Dodgers are doing it out of need, but why wouldn't they say, you can play where you want.
Yeah, well, he originally drafted, we know, by the Red Sox, and he was originally a shortstop.
Yeah,
but he had
so many of these kids are
exactly because they're great athletes. I mean,
Right.
Bryce Harper was a catcher, right? Yeah. Most of the catchers, best players are catchers, shortstop, center fielders, pitchers.
That's right. Up the middle.
But he, guys, had some throwing issues, so they move him to the. I think they moved him to second first, and then to the outfield. But listen. We've all watched this dude play. He's done everything he possibly could at every position. I mean, let's not even talk about he's won an MVP, right? You put him in right field, he plays on the biggest stage, he makes great plays banging into the wall. You put him at second base, he holds his own. I mean, you look at the highlights of him, I'll say highlights, just the plays that he's made at shortstop.
Yeah. Good enough.
If you just started watching baseball and compared him to any other shortstop out there and you look, you're not going to be like, this guy doesn't play shortstop. He knows what he's doing.
And this is at the major league level. And,
Yep.
and you're not even discounting the fact that he is one of the smartest base runners. Like, baseball people know, like, if there's an open bag or whatever, like, he's going to get it. He knows exactly what to do in every scenario. And to me, in a game that's become much more one-dimensional, right? You're a bopper or you're a light-hitting fielder who's great. Like, there aren't Mike Trout is obviously like one of them, and there's a couple, but even like Harper, he's limited, right? I mean, Betts is an all-around. I'm not even going to use like the 5-tool crap, but he is a baseball player.
Well, he's a 5-tool player. I mean, he's got speed, he's got the arm, and he's got the power.
No, I know, but I just the term is so overused. But
right.
I mean, for me,
but he like what you're saying, Brian, is he's one of the few that can do it all.
That is just a baseball player,
right?
Like Giancarlo Stanton is a hitter,
right? Sometimes.
But the point
most
is,
of
like,
the time,
he's not actually a baseball player.
Right. He's not a guy that is going to go out there and get a walk and could wind up at third somehow.
Yeah. And get X amount of putouts and make a great relay
leaping
throw.
Exactly.
And
the other thing I think is interesting about this whole scenario is what that says about Mookie Betts, the player. Right now, let's be honest. You're gauged by getting into the Hall of Fame by accolades, right, and numbers. 9-time All-Star,
right.
13-time All-Star, right. Batting title. By him changing positions, he automatically puts himself at risk of not becoming an All-Star, regardless of if there's a DH or not.
Right.
He automatically puts himself at risk because he's not playing that position. Everybody looks at Mookie Betts, and it's still, if you ask 75% of the people that even watch baseball, and they probably ask him what position Mookie Betts plays, they'll say right field or outfield.
Right.
They won't say shortstop. They won't say second base. So right away, he's at a disadvantage.
You think it's hurting his Hall of Fame? Because I think in general, even as great as he is, he's still 3 or 4 great years away from being a Hall of Famer.
Right. He has to stay on the field. He has to keep doing what he's doing. But that being said, it does, on paper, when you go and look at it, if by chance he doesn't make the All-Star team because he moved full-time to shortstop, right, and he gets beat out by, say, a hot hitter or a Dansby Swanson, that regardless of what Dansby said about winning Gold Gloves or whatever, that plays into it too. He could win multiple Gold Gloves in right field. Now he's moving to a different position. So it speaks a lot, I say, about Mookie Betts the person. And if you know anything about him or read anything about him, I think that's his MO. That's just how he is.
He's play and win.
Yep.
It's just so sad to me. It's just so sad.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, he wasn't staying with the Red Sox regardless.
Well, I mean, a lot of people say
he wanted out.
Yeah, he didn't want to stay. I mean, I think that as in the Red Sox defense, I think that is true. I do understand that, but it's still to have such a dynamic player that you had and could have had for longer.
I mean, yeah. I mean, think if he was the guy that you got everything broiling around instead of Devers, but you still had Devers.
Right, and I'm trying to think. I don't even know what kind of spring Bogarts has had.
Well, they moved him to second base. He's not their shortstop anymore.
So weird.
So I mean, look at that. I mean, that automatically tells you that he's already taken a step back. But come on, we knew this by these contracts these guys were signing last year.
As much as I love Bogarts, I wouldn't have given him what San Diego gave him.
And that's what you're seeing now.
Yeah.
People aren't getting these contracts. They're not getting these big deals, these long deals, these 30-year-olds.
It's crazy. If you have timing, it's like real estate. If you time it right, you could do great or just get totally
Well, it's nuts,
hosed.
too. Real quick about contracts. If you look at these contracts now where these guys have signed these young players, right? They haven't even played Major League Baseball. Like, everyone's clamoring that the Orioles should sign Gunnar Henderson, sign Adley Rusham to long-term deals, lock up Jackson Holiday. Well, we've already seen players do that, right, across Major League Baseball. It all started with, like, Acuna in the Braves, getting, like, it was 8 years, 100-something million. and he's talking about wanting to extend. But then you got guys like Bryce Harper who are talking about he wants to extend, and his deal goes through 2031, right? He's 5 years.
He wants an extension now?
They've talked about it, that he'll be 39 years old when that deal's up.
Well, this is an interesting segue. We're talking with John Senecal. This is Brian Shackman. This is Fan Base, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Episode 143 is the Brian
Exactly
Bello
what we were
contract.
talking about. Yeah.
And the difference is between like the 8-year, $300 million. This was much earlier in his arbitration eligible cycle, and it's for less years and less money. So, like, if you take a guy who's in like his second year and you give him 5 for 50, it in some ways I think it's a really kind of a brilliant deal. And I'm not the first person to say this because at the money at this level of Major League Baseball, if he gives you 2 or 3 years and ends up not being that good, you're eating 20, 30 million. It's like you're not taking a big risk.
It's so true, because over the course of that deal, even if he pans out and they take his option, it's like almost 80 million. It's like 81 million or something. But that's over the course of 6 years. And if you look at the going rate, you could look at that and he could pitch okay this year, blow his arm out, miss a season, and just fizzle out over the next 3 years. And that's still at the going rate of what you're paying players to do.
And I was trying to think about what, from the player perspective, makes it good. And obviously, he's getting above average for, like, I think he's even pre-arbitration for those years. He's getting above average for it. And then at the end of it, if he's good, he's young enough to get that fat deal. But on top of it, it's like, if you're thinking about it from a straight perspective, if I'm 23 years old or 22 years old, what if I get hurt? What if I never, like, that's money they can't take away from him. So no matter what, now, unless he's an idiot, his life is set.
Yeah. And the other thing is if you're that age and you're on a team, any team in Major League Baseball, and you get hurt, right? Let's be honest, he doesn't have a lot of Major League service, right?
Doesn't.
So if he gets hurt at his age, he's most likely not coming right back to the Major League roster, right? He's going to be out for a good amount of time, probably, have to work his way back. And at that stage of the game, all these other guys who are their so-called next guys are going to be burning right by him in the minor leagues. So he's not coming back to a Major League roster, right? Where they'll put him in the minor leagues just to get him some work. He's coming back to work himself back, to prove himself again, which is even harder. So that even speaks bigger to what you're saying, Brian, is because now he doesn't have to worry about that. So if he does get hurt, he can realize that, okay, I'm going to be fine. This team's invested in me. So yes, they're going to put it their best effort too, most likely, to get me back.
Yep. He's 24. He's going into his third season, really his second full season. And so it's one of the few things the Red Sox I thought did well. And I think it's a kind of a template for something to do, even though it seems like, God, you can do that with your whole roster.
Yeah.
There's probably 3 or 4 guys you could do it to. But if you think about it, if you lock up 4 guys for $200 million for 5 years, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what like Casas is thinking and Duran is thinking right now.
See, I think Duran hasn't proven himself to be worth more yet. Like he was down, up and down.
But based on what you just said,
If it was Duran, this is what I was saying. If it was Duran and he gets offered that, I'd take it.
Right.
But if it's Casas, I think his upside in terms of contracts, if you think he can play first and you think he can hit 40,
not necessarily exact dollars, but
he would
an
command,
investment.
He would command.
I'm
more.
talking like an investment. Now listen, like Adley Rutschman, right? New owners in Baltimore coming in, money to spend. I'm sure something after the next season. But when Adley Rutschman first came up and he was tearing up spring training, they told him he's not going to make the team in spring training. Right? So if I'm Adley Rutschman, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, we got something great going here in Baltimore, but there was a time when I was ripping things up and I should have been up here.
Yeah.
And they were going to keep me down so they could keep me another year.
Right.
And use me. So maybe
service time bullcrap.
So maybe I'm not going to eat their lettuce they're selling me, right? Maybe I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to free agency and I'm going to go to whatever team it may be. You're not getting the hometown discount. So I feel like there's thin lines these guys are walking with these organizations because a guy like Adley Rutschman is a marquee player. We all know that because it's catching, right? Catching is a big deal. First baseman, they come and go, right?
Yep.
I mean, Cassis could get hurt tomorrow and they can get Joey Votto in there and he could plug in and do what he needs to do, right? But that being said, it's still a player. it's still an investment, and there's still a talent. So by the Red Sox doing that, a lot of them say, well, it's a dog and pony show because they're rolling into the Dominican Republic. This guy's from the Dominican. We're going to throw a bunch of money at him, get the fan base all riled up because we haven't done nothing. But at the same time, you got other players there that I think deserve it too.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on for sure. He is John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. This is Fan Base, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. I think it was you or Matt Soroyce who produces this and is often a guest. I don't know who first circulated the renderings of Oakland's potential stadium in Vegas, but it's cool, and I want you to talk about that. But I'm also going to throw something out there. I think Vegas's acceptance as a major league city, and I don't think say baseball. I'm talking in terms of pro sports. It makes a lot of sense. Like they figured out how to regulate gambling. They obviously have enough of a fan base. The Vegas Golden Knights have done great. The Raiders, I'm sure, will long-term do really, really well. The NBA, we all know they want to get there. But I actually think baseball is the worst sport for Las Vegas. And the reason I think is mainly because of the climate. Because if you've ever been there in August, it's brutal. It's not fun. And if they're not going to build, and the renderings are not for indoors, it's outdoors.
No, I think it's a closed stadium, but it's like a glass. It's not a retractable roof.
So then they just pump the AC.
They
into
must,
it?
yeah. They don't even the footprint for the place they're building it isn't big enough for a retractable roof. If they build it,
it looks great.
It looks cool. Like you said it perfect, Brian. It looks cool. Does it look feasible? I mean, if you read articles about it, it sounds like it's just an AI generated, Happy Meal kind of. That they're just they're feeding a little kid something to get him happy.
Because
right?
It's not a done deal. I mean,
No.
The mayor doesn't even want them there anymore. So, I mean,
and the financing, there's all sorts of issues with public financing with the teachers unions in Nevada trying to block public financing, and these teams that they hold these movements and these teams over them looking for public money, obviously, and they want like $350 million in public money.
I'm a believer in public money because I think that these franchises are so good to have. I don't think Vegas needs to do it because they don't need baseball. Vegas doesn't need the A's. It just doesn't.
No, they don't. And the fact that they want to move there, and the fact that they are thinking of building it's like 32,000 seat, 33,000 seat, that right away tells you that they don't have a lot of hope that they're going to get a lot of players there, right? Players, fans.
It's better to, especially in a new place, it's better to have a smaller footprint and have it feel like it's full than have a 50,000. If you have 33,000 in a 50,000 seat place, it doesn't feel great.
Right.
If you have 25 in a 33, it feels a lot better.
But at the same time, if you're going to look at these teams, we honestly think that the A's are going to move to Vegas, right? And after the first year, I'll even give them the first year.
Okay.
That they're going to put 25,000 people in that stadium every game for 81 games a season. No,
You're
it's
saying
not going to happen. It's not going to happen because, listen, they say they need to move there to sustain a team, right? To keep a team competitive, to put a competitive team on the field. They need to move there, build the stadium, blah, 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 the revenue. The same deal that they always sell, right? That all these teams sell. Marlins sell the same deal. What the heck are the Marlins doing? Nothing, dude. They're getting 10,000 people a game.
Right.
And that's in a climate where I feel like it would be more apt for people to go to a baseball game. It's not in the middle of a desert.
Yeah, I think that Florida's a crap salad.
I mean, the owner of the A's is wealthy. He's the heir to the Gap fortune, right? He's worth $3 billion. He doesn't need revenue sharing and a stadium to fund a baseball team. They had the lowest payroll in Major League Baseball last year. It was under $60 million, right? The Major League Baseball teams get on average $100 million just on licensing deals with television.
Right. So you can put dog crap out there and you're going to make money.
That's what I'm saying. And it's they're going to sell a bill of goods that they got to move a team in order to fund a team on the field competitive. It's a total bunch of horse shit.
So what's going to happen, you think?
I mean, they want to put up $500 million of their own money. The Fisher family, I think it's the Fishers, yeah. And then they want $500 million in private investing, and then they want the public funding. If they don't get the public funding, then they're going to have to sell a bigger stake in the team, right? And it's not going to be $1.5 billion they're talking about. Everything runs over cost.
Yeah.
Everything runs over cost. So what happens then? They had a fan fest out there. I think it was this past weekend, and like nobody shows up in like a 10,000 seat. They're having like exhibition games. They're not selling those games out. If you thought a team was moving there in a year, you figure like that place would be rabid with fans.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I was surprised by the mayor coming out against it, and I think it's so important to have franchises. I don't think Vegas needs it. And
football's one thing. You got what, 10 games at the most, once a week.
Plus, even if you don't give a crap, if you told me if I was, at the high roller table and like you want 2 tickets to the Raiders, I'd be like, yeah. I mean, it's different.
And you want to go see the A's? They got a cool stadium. Like, dude, I'm going to watch U2 at the Sphere.
Yeah. By the way, the renderings, the right field video board is like built into the roof.
Yeah, but the place has no lights. Unless that video board is lights.
I don't know. They can light up the whole top. I don't know. If it were to build, there's no way it's
I literally feel
billion,
like someone just pulled that together on their computer.
When they went to ChatGPT and said, give me the coolest stadium for Vegas.
And they like took part of the Opera House in Australia.
Yeah.
And something else. They just threw some colors on it.
It's funny.
There was people just ragging on that so bad. They got down so bad where it was like, they looked up and I think like Brent Rooker is on the scoreboard batting like 308, and someone's like, when is Brent Rooker ever going to bat 308?
I gotta find my glasses. The guy they have there is Zach Geloff. I don't even know if he's a real player.
I think he's an infielder, shortstop. He's a rookie.
Right.
But still, it's like, I mean, pipe dreams.
I just don't know where they'd go.
Well, listen, their lease is supposedly up in Oakland after this coming season, 2024, and they're going somewhere. They don't know where yet. They've talked to Sacramento. They've talked to Salt Lake, which would be interesting because there's a big push to get a major league team in Salt Lake City,
right,
which could be like a prequel to being like, oh, look, we can, we're behind a team being here. We got a big, fan base. But I still think it's going to be Nashville for one. But the Oakland A's are interesting. I mean, they have been a mess
for a long. Go back to Moneyball. I mean, it's so even though they were great in those years. And they've won World Series. I mean, it's been 20 years.
I'm just tired of these rich-ass billionaires. Like, if you own a Major League team, they're worth $1 billion. Every Major League team is worth $1 billion, all right? And you're sitting here complaining that you don't have $150 million to spend somehow?
Right.
Get out of here.
Yep.
Stop that noise.
I know, but yet it keeps happening over and over.
Stop it.
Again. All right, that's it. We're not
going to talk about the bananas?
You want to talk about Clemens?
Yes.
Fat Clemens?
He went out there with a hoodie, dude. He had a hoodie under his jersey. Come on.
I wonder how much you got. First of all, I wonder how much you got paid for it.
If you're wearing a hoodie playing baseball, like that's the kid in Little League. You're like, dude, why are you wearing a hoodie right now? Well, take off the hoodie. We're playing ball here.
So my question is, I wonder how much they paid him, and I wonder...
you still think he gives a rat's ass about the Hall of Fame?
I do. I don't know. He's so dumb. But
you remember that press conference when they were all up in him about the Brian McNamee stuff, and they asked him about the Hall of Fame, and he said, "You think I give a rat's ass about the Hall of Fame?"
The older you get, the more you care.
Of course he does. Yeah. Ask Pete Rose.
And the truth is, we all know he's good enough. That's a stupid conversation. But I want to know, why does he do it? Do they give it? They can't give him $1 million because
I think he does it for the applause.
He just wants the attention?
I think so. I mean, come on, guy. When you're on this stage, when you've been on that stage that long and you've dropped that hard and you got to come back, I feel like any chance you get for people to acknowledge your existence is helps you mentally, everything. How hard do you think it is to be that guy for a while? Like, no matter where he goes, someone's going to call him a scab.
Yeah.
No matter what.
4,916 major league innings, 4,672 strikeouts.
I saw him when I was like
of 3.12.
Yeah, just like Barry Bonds, numbers are crazy. I saw him when I was like 12 years old at a baseball card show. He came in behind me. He was doing autographs. He literally, I turned around. He was right there. Introduced himself to me. He's like, "Oh, hey, I'm Roger Clemens." Like, of course I know who you are. But I thought that was one of the coolest things ever. Then he's like getting needles in the Sky Dome in his rear, and I'm like, "Come on, guy."
Here's the deal. I mean, again, just a review for people. First of all, I went to see him pitch against the Yankees, lose 4-3. I saw him warm up. I had third row bleachers at Fenway and watched him warm up. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen to watch him warm up. He had a 500 year or whatever, but if you look at some of the numbers in his last 2 years in Boston, the bullpen blew a ton of crap for him, a ton of games. and he was much better than the stats were. But I do think that he was like the Lance Armstrong thing. He's like, he left Boston. He wanted to stick it to him so bad. Whereas
Right.
Bonds was mad and jealous of McGuire and Sosa. With Clemens, he just was so angry he wanted to stick it to Boston so bad. That's why he did it. And I don't know. I can't tell you what I would do or not do in these situations and what it's like to be the best and then see yourself not be the best anymore. Like, I don't know what that would do to a person, and I'd like to think I would never change anything I do. But I do resent Clemens a ton for a lot of reasons. The same way Bonds. I mean, I'm not going to get into the steroid Hall of Fame stuff, but those guys are interesting because, you know, Bonds is more egregious because he never really totally got caught, and it's so obvious what he did.
Right.
And the same with Clemens. Like, the thing with Clemens I don't like is that when you look at me as a journalist and lie to me, and then somehow want me to feel bad about you later, I don't have a lot of That's why, like, I mean, and Lance Armstrong, he was a hero to me.
Yeah.
And he not only did he lie, but he chastised the people asking the questions as if they were jerks.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, reprehensible. So that's why, when Clemens, I had 3 posters on my wall as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Clemens, Neely, and Boggs. And Clemens let me down to the point where I will not forgive him. I won't.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like they let you down, they let themselves down. It's an interesting dynamic. You have people that like Mark McGuire, right? Basically did the same thing.
But at least he was accountable.
But like nobody cares. It's so strange. Canseco, like, but he'll never
Nobody
get a
cares about
chance.
him, or they don't care that.
But it's such an interesting dynamic across the whole sport. Like who gets to play and who doesn't get to play. Like, I just don't get it.
I mean, like,
Alex
who's
Rodriguez is like a
forgiven and
hero. Like that guy's on freaking Shark Tank. He's the biggest fraud there is in the whole sport.
Right. Well, he won't get
I
into
mean,
the Hall of
come
Fame
on.
either.
No, none of them will, but still, it's like, how do you get, like, at what point?
Like, why does society forgive one and not the other?
I don't get it.
I just told you
don't
why
get
I
it.
won't forgive Clemens, but
Who's making that decision? Like, somebody is pushing a button somewhere. Like, look at all those people that got canceled during the Me Too movement for, like, looking at somebody wrong. I just don't, like, who's the person that's deciding? Like, Canseco gets to do card shows at bowling alleys, and Roger Clemens gets to walk out in front of 50,000 people and pitch for the Savannah Bananas and get hailed a hero by a bunch of kids who don't even know how bad he screwed up. Like, I don't get that. Like, who gets to decide that? It's total crap. It's just total crap.
I don't have a response. But I like Angry John way better than Happy John.
Well, it annoys me. It's like, because it happens every day in society. It's like you can go to prison for 25 years for not committing a murder because somebody doesn't like the color of your skin or how you looked at. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, who gets to decide that? It's on so many levels. It's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could morph this into stuff that I do on a daily basis in terms of politics
But these people are like in the public eye every day,
Yeah.
right? And like, they are faces of multi-billion-dollar companies. Alex Rodriguez is a face of all sorts of stuff.
Well, now he's the face of a pro.
Like,
sports
I
team.
don't get it. Walks around like it's nothing ever happened.
Yeah, but what would you want him to do?
I mean, I don't know.
You want him
Go to a
stop
bowling
trying?
alley and do autographs with Canseco. What makes those two any different?
Well, but first of all, I mean, they had different careers. I mean, the bottom
one
line.
told the truth and one was a complete liar.
Right. That's
And the
true.
guy who's a complete liar is sitting up there like that dude could run for president and get more votes than the 2 clowns we got going right now, probably.
A-Rod.
Yeah. Probably could, given the certain climate.
But if you were
Mr.
him,
Politico he's actually contemplating what I just said. This is so funny. I wish that people see the look on your
Why?
face. You know more about politics than any two of us looking right now, and you're actually thinking I might be right. He probably could beat him.
No. I think that people like A-Rod for some reason, and I don't understand why. I'm more thinking about, like, what would you rather him do? Like, you mad at him for trying to build on something?
I just don't. I don't understand why it's so accepted.
Canseco would take his stuff in a second if he could.
I don't. No one should ever.
Do you want
not,
them to stop living?
No.
just because
No
they
one should
screwed up?
ever tell. No one should ever go against what is given to you, in my opinion. Right? If they're going to let you go, as long as you're not like committing fraud and doing like a bunch
Right.
of wrong stuff and legal stuff,
So you don't
fine.
blame him for trying to make money and do
but
all
at the
this
same
other stuff.
time, it's like
It's
hold
not-
yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Like, why are we celebrating someone who's done the exact same stuff, if not worse, than everybody else?
All right, we're gonna leave it. You should come on. You want to be a fill-in on my Dayside show? I think you do a good job.
I don't know. I just got riled up about
That was
that.
good. Well, listen, I'll just say this. One of my biggest things, and I'm not going to bring Trump or anything else into it, but Americans are sick of the elite and the establishment, right? And in politics, it's depending on your perspective. Some people feel really unfortunate that one particular person stepped into that void, but they're two separate things, in my opinion. The dissatisfaction with the elite and the establishment predated Trump. And what you're speaking to is like, why do people get to fail upward? Like, why do people get a free pass in life? And it's the same thing. Like, there is a sense of injustice about a lot of things that happen. So I think that sports is just sort of a microcosm of that sentiment, which might be a global sentiment, but I surely know it's a sentiment here in America. So we'll leave it at that. We're not going to go into politics. We promised we would never do something like that because
That's the closest we ever got, though.
I know. It was good, though. This is Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports.